All right, well, according to my laptop, it is 7 o'clock, so I will go ahead and call this meeting to order for the regular City Council virtual meeting of Monday, July 13th, 2020. And if we could all say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Roland.
Here.
Bizzard.
Here.
Bellinger.
Here.
Weiss.
Here.
Rhines.
Here.
Gilroy.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Okay, I am now looking for approval of this evening's agenda. There's no changes to be made.
So move, Weiss.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Barb, will you go ahead and call the roll for the approval of the agenda?
Bizzard.
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Roland.
He's on.
Yes.
There he is. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And now we have an opportunity for audience participation with a maximum of 5 minutes per presentation. Holly, do we have anybody else joining us besides Susie and Julie?
I see Susie and Julie, and that is it.
All right. Okay.
Did you want us to make comments now, or do you want us to wait for discussion?
I think discussion would be okay. If that's okay with you guys.
Thank you.
All right.
It's good with us.
All right, great. Thank you, Julie. We have council meeting minutes of June 22nd, 2020. I will say that I did review them, and I noticed on the minutes, we have 2-8E. So one needs to be corrected to 8F, and that was the second reading of the ordinance to amend the City of Williamston zoning ordinance. And then also, I would ask that you look at or listen to the recording and double check the vote on that, because I had in my notes that we had one no vote by Roland.
Sorry.
But the minutes show no votes on that, or that everybody voted yes. And those were the only changes I noticed that needed to be made. Did anybody have anything else for those council meeting minutes?
Tammy, I just had a question. So for the new 8F, there was one no there. Sorry, I had to put my dog out.
Yeah, I was taking notes that evening, and I had down that Councilman Roland voted no on that.
On the 8F?
On 8F for the city ordinances, the second reading.
Bellinger voted no on it.
No, Bellinger voted no on the solid waste collection contract extension.
Oh, so on the 8E. Okay.
Well, there's two 8Es, so one of them needs to be changed to 8F, and that's where Roland voted no. So with that being said, with those changes made to the council meeting minutes for June 22nd, I'm looking for an approval of those with the changes noted.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of our June 22nd meeting with the changes as outlined by Mayor Gilroy.
Thank you.
Bellinger, second.
Thank you. Barb, can you call roll for the council meeting minutes?
Bellinger.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
Bizzard.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving right along to accounts payable. Noah, you had an opportunity to review the accounts payable. I know that you sent a few questions to Corey, which he was able to answer in an email.
That is correct, and I believe all council members were given that same email. So that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve checks 73297 dated 6/18/2020 through check 73362 dated 7/2 of 2020, the total of $308,395.59.
Thank you, Noah.
Is there any other questions on any of the other line items within the check accounts that need to be looked at by any council member?
All right, I'm looking for a second support on that.
Second, Rhines.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, Barb, will you call the roll for accounts payable?
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Barb. All right, moving along, we're going to go right into our action items for this evening. And our first item for 8A is a patrol vehicle purchase, and we have Chief with us this evening. So I will turn this right over to you, Chief.
Okay, thank you. In your packet, you have a memo that kind of speaks for itself. What's not said in that memo is that Tahoe we're looking to trade in. I generally like to try to get a few more miles out of it, but it's been causing us some maintenance issues. We've had to replace ball joints, tie rod ends. It is using oil, and right now it needs new tires and new brakes. And so I think it's cost effective to buy now, and they do have that 2020 in stock for us to get now. And so that's why I'm making that recommendation. Be happy to answer any questions you may have about the fleet or the purchase.
All right, any questions for Chief? I thought your memo was great. John, I see your hand raised up.
Yep. Chief, what vehicle are you currently driving right now? Are you driving the 2019?
No, I'm driving the 2015 Chevy Tahoe with 75,000 on it.
So would that one be put into service for patrolling, like we to take the 14 out and then the 20 would go into a reserve mode and cycle it that way? Or how? I'm just curious how you're cycling these.
No, yeah, and you're right, John. You remember back, I first started doing it. I'd take the new one, cycle it in patrol, take the new one, cycle it in patrol. But then it didn't make cost-effective sense. We'd have to partially outfit it, then send it in to be re-outfitted. And then the equipment in a Tahoe, then the Ford Interceptor. So when we moved to the Fords in 2017, I stopped doing that. And so left that as a staff vehicle, and at 75,000, it wouldn't make sense economically to fit it because it cost about 10 grand to upfit it to a full patrol vehicle, and so we moved from that, and so actually the officers are getting a new vehicle put into patrol, and the officers do like the Fords better than the Tahoe because it's all-wheel drive, and so in inclement weather they get much better traction, and it's got a little more get up and go. Yep. And it's cheaper than the Tahoe. Did I answer that, John?
Yeah. So my other question is, this 40,000, does that include the upfit in there? Is that correct?
It does. It does. You can see the contract price is just under 34 for the vehicle, but they're going to give us a $5,000 trade-in, and then it's going to be about 11,000 to get it upfitted. So we're going to be right close to that $40,000 figure when we're done.
So another question is, do you think putting this other Tahoe into an auction would bring more versus doing the trade-in?
I do not. Our vehicles get pretty hard use. They're run 24/7. City driving is very difficult for them, and they have a cab company that picks them up, and so I think this is the best price we'll get for it.
Okay. I mean, I'm not opposed to the vehicle necessarily, Chief. We're just looking at, my other question was, do you think this could be pushed off another year with the way the COVID stuff's going and everything. And
I
'cause
I do
mean,
not.
you do not.
We recently put about $5,000 into it. This brakes and tires are gonna be, I use in town, so at Bappert, that's between $1,500 and $2,000 item ticket. And as I said, it's using oil. So I think we're on borrowed time. And so I would like to get 20 more thousand out of it, but I'm afraid it's gonna die on us.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions for Chief? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to move this patrol vehicle purchase forward.
I'll make a motion to approve to spend up to $40,000 to purchase and equip a 2020 Ford Utility Police Interceptor Explorer from Signature Auto Group off the Macomb County, State of Michigan bid contract and equip the vehicle for police service from Mid-Michigan Emergency Equipment.
Thank you,
Weiss.
Councilman Weiss.
Second, Rhines.
Thank you, Councilman Rhines. Any other discussion on this? Okay, Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Chief, and I know that you guys do a great job of getting the most out of it as being a reserve officer, and plus with Councilman Weiss and Councilman Smith, they know, what goes into driving these patrol vehicles around. It's nice to see that we've got a pretty good, solid fleet.
Thank you very much, and the officers will love that, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next action item 8B is the Building Department Service Agreement. Corey, I'll go ahead and push this over to you.
You're on mute.
You're on
Corey.
mute.
Thank you.
Yep.
This is a follow-up from our discussion item at the last meeting to presenting this for action this evening. One thing I want to note is that the intergovernmental agreement that's included in the packet is the final version. And so there's a couple small changes like in the footer of the document where they put the resolution number as the Livingston County Board passed it. Other than that, the document is the same as what was reviewed at the last meeting. And this and the next action item are somewhat tied together, and you'll notice there's just one memo that talks about both. And so for this particular item, the request is for the first bullet point in that memo, and that is to authorize this agreement to move forward with our change in building department services. Since we did spend a great deal on this at the last meeting, at this point I'll just entertain any questions as opposed to diving into it too much.
Great. You did a great job breaking this out for us at our last council meeting and included in this packet. So I will ask, does anybody have any additional questions regarding this contract that we're entering into with Livingston County?
Jeff Rowland has his hand raised.
Okay. Jeff, go ahead. You're on mute. There.
Hey, Corey. Good evening. Just a couple of, got a few notes here. Just real quick wondering, at the end of the day, what you believe the difference between the building official is that's referenced in the intergovernmental agreement, section 2, that says building official. How's that different from what we're going to use as the zoning administrator? I'm sort of missing like the distinction between what each person does. Can you kind of give a 40,000 foot view there?
Absolutely. So your building official is going to be the person appointed to oversee the building code. And so in order to have that designation, it doesn't say it right there, but you have to have, there's some sort of designation or certification that you have to have in order to have that role. And so that person will be oversight of all administration of building, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing codes that the city enforces. That is distinct from a zoning administrator, which is basically just looking at aspects of zoning, which are going to be, your setbacks from property lines, your conformance to the zoning code, and then obviously follow up on complaints and enforcement. And so building official is really about the structure itself and how it is built or a renovation is done. And they are overlooking that all of the state of Michigan building, plumbing, and all the trade permits are being followed, whereas your zoning is more so with the site itself. And at the pre-application point, you have to get your zoning satisfied before you can get your building permitting.
Are we intending to, I guess, bullet point that sort of outline for the building official in this agreement, or are we just going to leave it to that general understanding of what a building official does, just in case we get into some level of scope creep, right? We've not done this with them before. I don't want them thinking that there's something they don't have to do and we're expecting them to do it.
Yep.
Jeff, sorry, Corey. I was just going to say it's actually bulleted in the scope of services in the intergovernmental agreement on the second page, where it outlines the building, electrical, mechanical, plumbing codes.
Right.
So I think.
And I guess my concern there is then, Tammy, is in those bullet points we're constantly saying things like currently afforded other communities under the jurisdiction. We sort of use these very generic things instead of what is common in the industry or what is common under municipalities. Like we leave it very specific to them, and that's a bit irregular typically in agreements like this. I don't know, Tim, what you think about that. But
I was just going to ask Tim if he had a review.
Lower standard of care, do we want to accept their lower standard of care, right?
Yeah. I think there might be some confusion because there's two completely separate items addressed in this one memo, although they're separated by 2 bullet points calling for 2 separate motions. I do have the inside track on this because my office represents Livingston County. And in fact, I actually assisted in drafting this, similar to other similar intergovernmental agreements they have with other entities where they've had off and on, say with City of Brighton or Brighton Township, for instance. The building department in Livingston County only does building code, and then the other associated trades of mechanical, electrical, plumbing, etc. They do not do zoning. They don't know anything about zoning. They wouldn't even attempt to try to do any type of zoning review. We put down in the scope of service exactly what it is that they intend to do, what we need them to do. The building official is a designation under the State Construction Code Act. You have to have a building official, and that's really what they do. It's completely separate and distinct, say, from a zoning administrator under the Zoning Enabling Act. The bullet points that are listed here says exactly what they're going to do, and they have a very detailed fee schedule of exactly what they do and what they're looking at. And most of this is going to be paid for by fees. So it's essentially we're delegating to the county to do that aspect of the work, completely separate from the zoning services.
And Tim, it's all held to the state of Michigan codes. This isn't Livingston County codes. This is all held to state of Michigan.
No. Right.
Are those fees static or do they escalate? And is there a way to control the escalation of those fees?
Well, these are standard fees, and the fees are supposed to cover the costs. They're not supposed to be there to make money because otherwise that would be a tax. They're there to cover the costs. They can change. Other communities, there's been actions taken to try to get the fees to be changed. but there has to be proof that they exceed the costs. And the more work that the office does, it spreads out the fees and they can keep them relatively lower than they might otherwise be, or they would have to lay off staff, for instance. I think it's beneficial from the county's perspective that they have this additional work. It keeps people employed. It keeps their revenue flowing. It keeps their fees stable. And they have enough to do where they don't have to worry about laying off staff. Again, completely separate from the zoning aspect.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the input, Tim.
You're
One
welcome.
last question, Corey. So second page of the memo, I guess second paragraph, basically describe that will still likely require professional planning, zoning assistance at times, yada, yada. What do you see that exposure as being in terms of a monetary exposure or, frequencies? Did you have an analysis of that?
I don't. I do want to be clear that that's more for the second action item here. But I don't have a specific expectation of how often that will occur. The plan with that is going to be that if we have something that we cross where we need that extra assistance, that cost will be baked into the fee structure that we would charge for that zoning review. That's fairly common for cities when it comes to engineering. We are fortunate in that we have Scott, who is a professional engineer and can do those in-house for us when we have a big site plan. But many times you'll see on a fee schedule, say, X number of dollars plus a deposit for the engineering review. And for us, I do put in there in the last sentence of that paragraph that as we navigate this, I would expect that we would come back with a fee schedule that would give council that guidance as far as what we'd be looking at. I haven't done that yet because I was kind of waiting to see if the plan itself was doable, and if we are successful in trying to fill this position, we would do that simultaneously and bring that back likely in a couple months. So don't have a complete sense of what those costs would be. It's really going to be driven by demand. And so if we have the demand for, complex type developments that would necessitate some additional assistance, then that would be baked into that fee schedule to make it as budget neutral as possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Dan,
That's all I had.
Dan, I see you have your hand up.
Also, according to Corey's memo here in the first paragraph, he has, if we hire a zoning assistant and they make the top dollar, which would be $20 an hour, he estimates that salary at being $22,391. And what we currently have in the budget is around $35,000. So that leaves some room there for if you have to bring in an outside contractor, if we have a large development coming in, and that's not dipping into anything we're not already spending.
Correct. And just for historical purposes, and this was before Corey came on board, but Noah, you've been here long enough. This was something that has been discussed. And we did, with our former city manager, we did talk about, if a very complex project came into the city and we did not have McKenna and we brought somebody in-house, that Corey stated it correctly. It would be a fee that would be baked in to that project. And so I think we've really, covered all of our bases on what we want to do and how we can move forward to really bring somebody in-house and have somebody on site whose focus is mainly Williamston, and not have to worry about a planning firm that is only available to us, in the office one time, a week, but serves other municipalities. We're not only, I don't really feel we're always the center of focus for McKenna, and sometimes that creates delays in projects moving forward, or, you guys that have been on planning commission, you know the heartburn and stuff that we've had with it, occasionally.
Tammy, Mayor.
Yes, Corey.
just
Yes.
to follow up on Jeff's initial question one last time. In addition to the scope paragraph, there is an attachment, which is, I think it's Exhibit A. It's like a workflow. And the second part of that workflow after the customer submits the permit is that Williamston has to fulfill local prerequisites such as driveway, zoning, fire department reviews, collection of back taxes if required. And so, that spells out very clearly that we have to do the zoning. And then just to be clear, that fee schedule that's attached, the contract does say that if the county changes their fees, then we also would incur a fee change. And so that is a potential risk of the contract. But I think it's one that everything that we've heard and discussed with Livingston County, I am comfortable that, they have a fair fee structure. In fact, one of the things that the building official mentioned was that they've actually lowered their fees 3 times in the last several years because the work that they've had has brought in so much revenue that they've had to adjust those downward, as Tim was explaining. Thanks.
So this memo has 2 motions in it, so I think I'm looking for an action on the first motion to move that forward. Noah?
Just a question. I know we do a lot of looking at documents, but so in the blue highlighted column on each one, it shows these were last updated 2018. So do they review these pricings every year? And then, like you say, they're lowering them, raising them, or whatever substantiation. But I would think that, is there a cycle? Do they do this every 4 years, every 2 years, just to update the document? That header, effective December 1, 2018. Just a
Tim,
thought.
can you, are you able to speak to that at all?
Well,
Any background?
These are their most recent fees. These are the current fees that they're using. I'm not aware that there's a particular schedule upon which they review and adjust the fees. But as has been discussed already, the fees must relate to the actual costs that they incur in performing the services.
And I understand that. It's just looking at, we do a lot of documents at my work where they're ISO certified. And whenever you review or change something, you update the document, or there's a footer that states the last time it was reviewed. The prices can stay the same, but it notes that, when it was last reviewed. So just a thought.
Well,
Thank you, Noah.
I think we can fairly presume that these are the current fees.
Okay.
And that they were.
I'm good with
they
that.
They may
it's
have
just,
been reviewed, but not changed since 2018.
Okay.
That's been
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
I agree. That's fine. It's just a note I wanted to make.
Thank you, Noah. So I'm looking for a motion to move this first bullet item forward.
I make a motion to enter into the attached intergovernmental agreement with Livingston County on behalf of Livingston County Building Department to provide building department services to the city of Williamston following termination date of the city's existing building department contract. Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Rhines.
Second, Smith.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Any further discussion? Barb, will you call the roll?
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Smith. Smith,
Yes. Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
All right. And moving on to the second bullet point, this is for the part-time zoning administrator position. Corey, do you want to go over this with us as far as like the job description that you have in here, which is extremely thorough. Your memo was thorough, so I'll hand it over to you.
Similar to the last one, we had a discussion on this at the last meeting. The new information is the breakdown of our proposed pay range, the fact that it's part-time, no benefits, to keep the costs manageable. Part of what's presumed by me in this motion is that the pay range allows me to offer anywhere in that range depending on qualifications and the candidate pool. And so, as I think it was Dan pointed out in the memo, there's a paragraph that breaks down, current expenses versus what this would cost us. And I even threw in there that we would have some mileage reimbursement if this person's using their personal vehicle to look at things in town. The only thing I'll bring up that was kind of a follow-up from last meeting, as I mentioned, some of my hesitation of pulling the trigger, given where we're at with revenues and items like that. But I think these two things are so tied together that I really felt like, we just got to pull the Band-Aid off and do both, and see what the candidate pool is like. I fully admit that, we may put something out there and possibly not get a great candidate pool. But we won't know until we try. And I've had success in previous communities, not necessarily with a zoning administrator position, but some of these more professional part-time jobs where we've actually been really surprised by the candidate pool. Whether it's folks that are trying to do a mix of stay home with family and get some work hours in. And so part of my goal is going to be to offer a fair amount of flexibility as another benefit of this potential job is that, the hours, as long as we can get a fair amount of coverage at the city building, I'm going to work with whoever is successful in coming up with an hourly or a schedule of availability and days a week, just to try to add something, because we're not offering benefits. We're just offering, a paycheck basically. And so that's what I would say. And we're eager to give it a shot.
So Corey, will you be posting this on the MML website? I know that that's a good mechanism for people, and what other websites might you be posting this on besides our own city website as well?
Yeah, the MML has a great classifieds board where you get a lot of folks that are looking for work in local government. We would certainly use some of the more, general job ads, whether it's Indeed or Career Builder, just to try to capture a fairly wide net.
And then also, I just wanted to point out too that we will still be having Rachel and yourself kind of acting as our in-house until this position should happen to be filled.
Yep. So we've got, kind of two contingencies here. One is that, I do plan to use McKenna on a as needed basis through this until we get somebody. We've got a couple things going on with them right now where it's been helpful to have their support. I do plan to talk with them about this potential, assistance on these bigger, more complex things, or even like ordinance updates. We've been trying to get through these with the Planning Commission. And so until we have like a person that's ready to go, I plan to do that as we wind that down. And then, Rachel's been handling very well, our permits that don't require a building permit. So items like
Correct.
Small sheds, fences, minor ordinance complaints. She's been doing a great job with that. And I think amongst the team here, we've got the skills that we can handle, if somebody comes in and wants to build a garage in the interim, I think we can handle those.
Great. Any questions out there for Corey on this? Yes, Holly.
Councilman Rowland has his hand raised.
All right, Jeff, go ahead.
Corey, love your description there. One of the things that I like most about it is that you're offering that flexibility to when they'll be able to work with you and set schedules. You think it'd be worth maybe adding that to the job description that, typically people are wondering, is it, regular business hours? Is it nighttime? I wonder if it might be worth sort of classifying that a little bit, and you might be able to draw a bit more interest based upon that flexibility.
Yeah, Jeff, that's a great point. And if it's not right in the job description, then we'll make it part of the job announcement, if you will, that will be there.
Good way.
Great. Any other questions for Corey on this job description? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to move this forward.
All right, I'll do it. I'll make a motion to approve part-time zoning administrator position as outlined in the attached position description for up to 20 hours per week at a pay range of $16 to $20 per hour and no eligibility for benefits. Smith.
Thank you, Councilman Smith. Do I have a support?
Bellinger, support.
Thank you, Councilman Bellinger. Any further discussion? All right, Barb, will you call the roll, please?
Elroy,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Sorry.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And this is exciting because this is something that's been in the works for, I think, about 5 years, right, Noah?
It goes back a lot longer than that.
Yeah, so this is exciting to be able to add to our staff and have this availability for our residents and, you know, I think, improve. So I'm excited about this. Next up, we have the High Street Lift Station Pump Rebuild. And I believe we're going to turn that over to Scott. Hi, Scott.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Which football field is that?
Spartan Stadium.
Okay.
All right. So in your packet, you have a memo that talks about the High Street Lift Station rebuild. There's some photographs that they added in there. Kennedy Industries pulled the pump for us. It was leaking and spraying water on the interior of the lift station in the dry well part. And it's in need of a serious rebuild at this point in time. It's an older station, been installed for now about 31 years. We believe that it has several years of life that we can continue to get out of the station. It is a twin to the Mechanic Street station that we've been working on doing other refurbishments to it. So it doesn't surprise me that we're running into a need to do some maintenance and repairs. We did check out what the cost of replacing a pump would be. We can no longer buy the exact pumps anymore. We would have to have another model that can be retrofitted to fit into that part of the station. But by the time you look at the cost of the pump plus all the retrofits and installation, it would be approximately twice the cost of this refurbishment to this pump. So I guess I'm bringing that forward to you. It's above the thresholds for our normal spending within staff with Corey and myself. $9,600 for Kennedy Industries of Wixom, Michigan. Any questions?
Scott, when you say that we can get a couple more years out of it, what are we realistically looking at?
Oh, no, not a couple more.
Do you think?
I think you're looking at several more years out of this.
So 5?
10, 15, 20?
Probably in the neighborhood of 7 to
10. Would that be a good estimate? 7 to 10?
Yeah, I mean, there might be some additional things to do, but not of this magnitude.
Is there any?
Like the motor could go and we'd replace the motor. But
Sure.
At this point, we're saving that motor because it still tested out good.
Okay. And is there anything that could come along down the line that could compromise that 7 to 10 years? Not outside of a motor burning up or something, but anything else that you could think of that would make us want to do the replacement versus the rebuild?
Not that I can come up with. We do know that the other pump is, it's a duplicate to this. So I would anticipate to expect sometime in the near future, maybe within the next couple of years, that we might have to do a similar rebuild on the other pump.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Scott?
Just real quickly, in the motion, you've got the wrong price. You got the decimal in the wrong place.
Oh, yeah. We're going to want to have that corrected.
Exactly.
Not 96,000.
Thank you.
9,600. Thanks, Noah.
You're welcome. So with that being said, Bellinger will make the motion to approve the rebuild of the Fairbanks Morris sewage pump in the High Street lift station in the amount not to exceed $9,600 from Kennedy Industries of Wixom, Michigan.
Thank you, Councilman Bellinger. Do I have a support?
Second, Ryan.
So close. Thank you both. If there's no further discussion on this or no further questions, Barb, will you call the roll?
Roland. Roland,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes. All right. Our last action item for the evening, this is for Scott as well. It's the water reliability study.
Hey, again, there's a memo in your packet there that kind of goes through and details things. We're reaching the home stretch of getting the water reliability study stuff together. We did apply for and receive an extension from Eagle to October 1st. I would like to note that in the attachment for agreement number 2, they had on the last page July 1st for completion date, and I did talk with C2AE. They've revised this after the council packet was put together for September.
All right.
Which I believe is sufficient. In the midst of us doing this study, Eagle has come out with multiple other things to put attention to, and with the lead service line stuff, the asset management programs that had to be submitted, the capital improvement plans. It's all good stuff and necessary and helps proper operation of water systems. But it was a tremendous undertaking there to get all that stuff included. So in discussions with Eagle, they see the merit of what we're trying to do with our reliability study, basically trying to incorporate all the work with our GIS and really make this a good planning document for the future. If you read through that memo that I sent them, I did kind of go through and account for all the projects from the previous reliability study, and the city has done a very nice job of going through and utilizing these studies. Each project was actually planned for well in advance, and the city's spent many millions of dollars doing these things, and without some investment and some proper planning up front, you can maybe not make the wisest choices when it comes to spending that money in the future. So
thank you, Scott. Great memo. And, I appreciate all of the effort and everything that you put into it, because we know that it's important. Questions for Scott? Anybody? Hands up. All right. Okay, I'm looking for a motion then to move this contract amendment forward for the water study project.
I make a motion to approve contract amendment of the professional engineering services contract with C2AE for the water reliability study project in the amount of $13,000 not to exceed. The total contract price for phase 1 will be amended to $26,500 not to exceed.
Thank you, Councilman Rhines. Do I have support?
Support Weiss.
Thank you, Councilman Weiss. If there's no further discussion or questions, I'll have Barb call the roll, please.
Smith. Smith.
Yes.
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 Bizzard. Bizzard.
You're on mute.
Yes. Yes.
Nope.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bellinger.
Yes.
Weiss.
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Gilroy.
Yes.
Roland.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. That concludes our action items for this evening. We're going to move right along into our discussion item, and that is the Senior Center Millage request. Corey, I'll turn that over to you. And we also have Julie Rudd and Susie Cockrell here from the Williamston Senior Center, so that if we have questions, they should be able to answer them for us.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Just as a background introduction, Julie had attended a February city council meeting to discuss the senior center's current situation and desire for a millage request. And after that, there was direction to basically come back later in the year. And Julie dropped off the cover letter that's in the packet along with the resolution request for council to consider, which provided some additional background. For council's benefit, ahead of the meeting, we went through the discussion from February and just tried to, put the main questions and topics that were considered in a memo for council's consideration. So that is in there. One other thing I would note is that when we had Tim Perrone review the resolution, he did make some proposed edits, and those are in the packet. Their original, the red line, and then the clean version. And I believe I also sent that to Julie for consideration. Other than that, I would say the one aspect of this that, we noted that, I guess would be my chief concern is that the way it's framed is that 0.25 mil would come out of or be counted against the city's, overall 20 mil tax limitation. And so I just think that's an important thing to consider. It's obviously a policy decision for council when considering what to do. But I think it just needs to be noted that that's, 0.25 mils that would not otherwise be able to be asked for to the voters for some other purpose, whether it's roads or infrastructure, which I know we've been talking a lot about. So other than that, that's about all I have to say on it. And if there's any questions about some of the points that we brought up or any of the documents, we're happy to answer that. I really think the point of this was to give council an opportunity to review and to speak directly with Julie and Susie for any questions, concerns.
So I do have a question. You've pushed this out to the other municipalities that are listed. I'd like to know what type of feedback you're getting from them in relationship to what Corey just stated about that we would have to, it would be counted against the Headley over amendment. So can you tell me what type of feedback you've gotten?
Yes. We met with Leroy last week and they actually, all of them agreed that they were going to pass it. They passed it as written originally. We met with Williamston and they want to wait and see what everybody else does. Their thought was we should probably hold off. We should put an authority together. We should then do a millage after the authority has been put in place. And no disrespect whatsoever, but right now we literally are looking at 1 to 2 years that the senior center is going to be operating. So time is really like of essence for us. And so our compromise with Williamstown was hold off, but let's put something in place, some piece in there that says we agree on the language, we're going to put it on the ballot, and we then will immediately put into place this authority or something thereof that helps direct the funds being used the way that you guys would all want input to being used. We're meeting with Wheatfield and Locke Township tomorrow. And that's it, right? That'll be it. Yeah.
So my question that I am probably guessing to Tim, if they were to put this on the ballot, it passed, but then the senior center comes back and creates an authority like NISA, how does that affect a ballot measure that's already been passed?
Yes. If we put this on the ballot and it passes, it authorizes city council to levy this in any given year up to the maximum, which means that city council has the discretion not to levy any of it or to levy a portion of what's been authorized. So you don't have to levy any of it, but you would be authorized to do so. And so if there's another funding source or they change their structure you could decide that under those circumstances, you're not going to levy. There's also other potential sources, this other pending proposed county millage that's on the next ballot.
Okay.
And then with regard to the language, as you can see that I made some edits, and a lot of them are just for some clarification, but I think there were two that were very significant, and maybe they should review these with the other communities, of describing this as 0.25 mils, and then they put down 0.25 cents. It's actually $0.25.
Right.
Difference. It's a quarter, not a quarter of a penny. At least that's my understanding.
Those have already been changed.
Okay, and then the years, of course, 4 years inclusive is 2020 to 2023.
Correct, and those have all been changed too.
Okay.
So my next question then is, would you consider creating that authority, like the NISA authority, and having it go on the ballot as with that language?
Where we're at right now, we can't do that before the deadline. So
Okay.
it would again have to be, we agree to the language with an addendum that says that we will create something like an authority or thereof, all that we agree to. Here's my issue with that. We've got 4 townships and a city, 5 lawyers that all have to agree on how we go forward. So to get that done within the time frame by August 11th, that's unrealistic. And again, no disrespect to anybody. I'm trying to speak in facts.
Yep, and I appreciate that, Julie, and you always have.
Thank you. And where we're at, even with the board, I gave the board an update on Thursday with where we're at with the townships, and I've had some questions from Locke. Quite honestly, they're like, well, we'll put it on the ballot, but I don't think it's going to pass, that kind of conversation. But where I'm at right now, I'm really at the point where, like, let's let the community decide, and if they vote it down, then we understand that the community doesn't want to keep the senior center going. But if it's just us, in the room all saying, it's not going to make it, I feel like we haven't done justice to our community. And so I really want to get it out to the community to make sure that the community has a choice. And so anyway, I gave that update to our board on Thursday, and it didn't go over real big. It didn't go over real big. I'm trying to just do what we can do to just, keep it going and see what we can do for the community. But again, like, if it's not important to the community, then I understand, and we will, instead of putting a 5-year plan where we grow and change the senior center into what we really want it to be, we will then close it down. And it won't be the gentleman that's our treasurer, volunteer treasurer, ran the numbers again, and he's realistically saying 1 to 2 years is all we've got. So to not go for a millage this year and then try to create the authority and then try to get the millage, and then we've created an authority. We've got $26,000 that we're dealing with right now. We don't need an authority for that amount of money, but we've got that all in place to go out and then get a millage that we don't even know if it'll pass 2 years from now. Feels really unrealistic for me. We may not even be functioning in 2 years with everything that we're looking at. So I kind of feel like we're in between a rock and a hard place, and we've got to try to get it on the ballot and at least let the community decide what they want to do.
Okay. Any questions from council members? John?
So if the millage passes in the city of Williamston and it doesn't pass in the other townships that are putting it on, then what is your plans going forward. I mean, creating the authority, like when NISA did it, my understanding is they created the authority. It went on to the ballot. It was passed, all the townships. It was an all or nothing, is my understanding.
I'm not sure if that's totally correct, because when we met with NISA, they said that they put it on the ballot and then the authority was created after that with wherever it passed. And it was luckily that everything passed. We would want to create the authority with those that it passed. It already passed in Leroy. And they were really supportive. They want to see it continue. Let me put it to you this way too. There is not, and I wish I was even exaggerating, we've done our due diligence. We've talked to everybody. We've talked, and I think I said this when I gave the presentation, we've talked to TCOA, we've talked to the commissioners, we've talked to the library, we've talked to the schools, we've talked to just about everybody we can in the community. And there literally was not one person that said, I don't want to see the senior center continue. It was all, I don't have the funds to keep it going. And so realistically speaking, if we don't have a guaranteed funding, right now we're going with donations, basically, is what's keeping us going right now. That's all we've got, that and fundraisers. And we can't keep going there. So if it passes in the city of Williamston and Leroy Township, we would then, that proposed budget that I gave you in there, we would have to obviously revise that, adopt it. We did this as 4 years so we could kind of see how it played out in the 4 years that we've got the funds coming in, so we could see what we could grow from there. And in 4 years, if we decided it wasn't realistic to get a renewal, ask for more, ask for the townships that didn't approve it at the time, try to get those to on board to get them to approve it. We would then decide whether we were going to approve or we were going to renew or not renew, and then shut down at that point. This is literally a financial stability millage. When I proposed this to Williamstown, they basically asked me why we weren't going for more. We looked at going for more. We looked at going for a building. We looked at going for the big end all be all. But right now, realistically, with where we're at, not only in our community, but in our country, we didn't feel like it was realistic. So we're really trying to go for bare minimum financial stability, provide us something so we can go forward, we can provide some of the services that we want to provide for the seniors that we haven't been able to provide, and some of the things that we do provide, and grow it from there. Grow the membership, grow, the senior center from there. Did I answer you?
Yes, you did.
Julie, I have a question, and it's regarding the Ingham County Elder Persons Millage. Do you think that if that passes, you will be able to tap into any of those funds?
No.
No?
It's
Okay.
not earmarked for operation.
No. And when
Okay.
we started this 3 years ago, we started out with TCOA.
Yeah.
And they
Okay.
originally said that they thought that they would be able to help us with a millage. And within 6 months to a year, they were saying, no, we can't.
Okay.
You need to get your own. And then we met with, Randy Schaefer, and we met with Mark, I'm drawing a blank. Grebner. And they basically said, we might be able to do something for you on down the road, but we haven't got any. So it was kind of like, no, if you've got to survive, you got to do whatever you got to do to survive. We can't help you. So no, unfortunately, the TCOA millage going through in August is not going to benefit the senior center at all.
Okay. Any other questions out there, council members? No, I see your hand up.
Just a
And
quick
Dan,
one.
we'll come to you next.
And Jeff,
How has the COVID and the executive orders from the governor affected the services for the senior center?
Great question, Noah, because if nothing else, it's really proved to us that the senior center is like a must for the seniors in our community. Right now, we are still getting meals delivered to the senior center. We're bringing it in the parking lot, and we've got the seniors driving up to get the meals. This last month, there were over 400, I'm not going to get the number right, so don't quote me, but over 400 and some, I want to say 480, but don't quote me. Well over 400 senior meals that were delivered in the month of June.
So the center has been closed since March 17th.
Right. But we've been doing the meals at a minimum for the seniors, and we're still reaching out to them. We're still seeing what they need and what we can do from a socially distant perspective, I guess is the best way to say that.
Thank you for that. And then one last question. I was looking at your proposed budget, and it looks like you have about $62,000 budgeted just for salaries out of that $131. Is that correct? Because you have the director at 30, an assistant director at 13.5.
Correct.
So those are paid positions
right. They aren't what we are doing today. You know, today we've got the director, and he's part-time, and he has 15 hours a week. We would like to increase to 5 days a week.
Okay.
And we would really like to add an assistant director if possible. Granted, depending on what gets approved where, we would obviously adjust. But if we had, and this was even toned down from what our original 8 years ago idea was, but we really need somebody in the kitchen managing the volunteers. I feel like realistically that would be another one that we would have to have. And then like the assistant and the director would be kind of like musts that we would like if we, you know, if everything goes through.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Dan Rines?
You're welcome.
You had a question?
Totally correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is currently you have no rent for the space you're in now with utilities taken care of. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, like you've stated that you have 1 to 2 years. What are your major expenses right now that would force you to close with no further funding with that lack of large overhead expenses?
Okay. Well, number one, we've got a director that works part-time. So his salary is being paid. And I don't know, again, don't quote me, but I think we're paying him like less than $17 an hour. So that comes right off the top. And then anything left over is for what we can do service-wise for the seniors. So roughly $8,000 a year is all we have right now to do any kind of services. And the meals are only like a piece of what we do. And the meals we get through TCOA, but that means we don't have any, there's not a lot we can do as far as services to provide for the seniors with what is left over. Did I answer that?
Interesting programming. So, and lots of programming costs money to offer, and we don't have any extra money that we can provide instructors for something, for example.
Right now, we've got an instructor that would love to come in and teach, whether it's yoga or some physical activity, well, even the chair exercises and that type of thing. But we have to be able to pay the instructor to make that happen. So we're really limited on what we can even offer. Even if we take them to Turkeyville and we need a car, we need a truck, a van to get everybody in there, or the Holland Tulip Festival is what we normally do, renting the van and taking them over there. They basically pay their way into the facility. They pay for their lunches, but we take care of the van and the insurance and everything that goes over there. That's just one.
Mhm.
So
Thank you.
really limited on what we can offer them.
All right. Jeff Rowland, you had a question, and then Jean, I'll come to you.
Yeah, just a couple quick ones, just so I fully understand the entire scenarios. There at that meeting back in February, and certainly appreciate that presentation then and today, and what you're all doing. Just a couple quick ones. So is there a membership fee? Like, is there? Because I don't see any other like revenue or fundraising goals on here. Is there any other?
There isn't. There's a membership. Yeah, there's a membership fee of $10 per person per year. And we do fundraising all the time. We've got fundraising activities that happen, but most of the time, we have memorials. Where people donate, when they pass, they leave money. They donate throughout the year. They donate to us. The biggest thing keeping us going right now is we sold the van 2 years ago, and we had an $8,500 donation. So right now, I think our bank account is at like 17,000, and 15,000 of that is from a donation and selling the van.
Is there a consistent
things that
amount of
aren't
fundraising you can count on annually, or no?
No.
Okay,
No.
it hasn't been that consistent. And in terms of percentages of the population of your members, are you able to break that down by these townships and cities? Do you know like what percentage specifically would be Williamston City?
Well, right now the city is, we've got like 142 members from the city, but the number that I want to focus on as we go forward, because I'd really like to create the senior center into something that it isn't currently today, is we pulled numbers from a 2016, Randy Schaefer pulled the numbers for us, I guess I should say, and it came at people 65 and older within the city. There are 586 people within the city that are that age. So if I were going to market this much like a business going forward with trying to get new people in here, that 586 is the number I'd really like to shoot for, instead of the 142 that I know we've already got. I'd like to go for the other 400 and whatever we've got in the area. We'd like to start targeting the people that are 65 and over and trying to create a senior center that they would enjoy coming to.
Sure, makes sense. Yeah, I was just wondering in terms of if we did an action item next time, go forward with putting this on the ballot, likelihood of the city of Williamston and the vested interest that even exists here. I didn't know if you were aware of that, but it sounds like you might not have that sort of specific of demographics of your membership base, but yeah, and also just fundraising history and how that might incorporate into future funding. But because obviously if this does pass, right, like we're left with a scenario where we can do up to 0.25, but maybe we do 0.1 and that's enough. And so more financial information about the historical, if you were to sell this business to me, what your fundraising success has been, like say over the past 5 years, would be useful. But yeah, so all right, that's all I had. Thank you, appreciate it.
Jean.
Okay, well, and just
go ahead, Julie.
And just so you know, there's been 26,000 is the average for the last 8 years, I want to say.
8 to 10.
8 to 10 years. The average has been, between our fundraising and our donations, 26,000 is what we're operating the senior center on. Sometimes less, rarely more, but about 26,000 over the last 8 to 10 years. I don't know if that helps you too.
Jean, go ahead with your question.
I guess less of a question, more of a few statements. So as everybody knows, I actually work full-time as my career in the senior living industry, right? And this COVID thing has actually pointed out a lot of new information to me that I think would speak directly to this. So what we've found within our own community, and again, I mean, we service almost 1,500 seniors just in our community, so it's a city. And what we've found is the seclusion that has come with this COVID environment. I mean, it may as well be a virus itself. It's killing just as many of our seniors through depression and all these other things as the virus. And to me, that highlights the extreme need outside of the virus, but the extreme need for a senior center and a place for the seniors to go and get that social aspect and to ward off these issues that I'm seeing very consistently pop up just within my compartmentalized community that I manage. But I mean, it's turning into literally a life and death thing. And we're talking about a generation that raised us, right? Like the budgets that they're operating with, I'm looking through the numbers in here and I'm like, this is peanut. This is nothing. to have services commensurate with the generation that we're talking about. I mean, we're just not even on the same page here. They're operating on nothing and they're making it work, but obviously it's not working now. I mean, quite frankly, speaking to your meal delivery thing, I mean, we too are delivering meals right to the doors. We're finding people that are having difficulty with even putting something in the microwave, let alone making the meal themselves. And if we weren't there to give them the meal, they literally just would not be eating. And so when I'm hearing you're delivering that many meals and you're providing that service, I'm picturing the percentages of the people that we have that just would not be eating, again, contributing to malnourishment and all these other health issues that go with it and death. And again, it's another service that is extremely vital, right? And so I think if we moved forward in a fashion like Leroy did, that when they go tomorrow to Wheatfield and the other township, it's going to just give them that much more credibility behind what they're saying I've got the city of Williamston and Leroy Township already on board. I've got Williamstown Township waiting to see, help us also lead the way. So I would like to see this go forward as a motion tonight to put it to the voters. I mean, this isn't us making that decision, right? We're putting it to the voters, but with the money that they're working with now, it's a joke. That's a joke. It's almost insulting. This generation that is serviced through this deserves so much better than that. And again, these are literally life-saving things. As I've recently learned, if you had asked me this 2 years ago, it would have been over my head. I wouldn't have understood it. I've seen it plain and clear. This saves lives. And I think rather than sitting on our hands over it, I think we should move forward with the language that Tim edited. But let's put our prints on it. That's my stance.
Thank you, Jean. So with what Jean is just
much. Thank you, Jean.
So with what Jean has just said, and I can appreciate that. I was actually at Marilyn Thompson's earlier today, and she said that you guys are doing a picnic luncheon at McCormick Park to get some of these seniors out so that they can have that social interaction. And I think that's amazing. I'm going to stop by. But with what Jean just said about taking action on that this evening, do I have support for his idea to move this up to what would be action item 8F. Or do we need some time to think about it and make a recommendation for it to come back on our July 27th council meeting action items?
What?
Go ahead, Dan.
I guess I'm trying to figure out what would the motion crafted tonight be? If we were to vote on a motion tonight, because we usually have those written up, and this is to go on to put something to the ballot.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Corey or Tim, but it would be a motion to create a resolution in favor of the Williamston Area Senior Center millage request. And would we have to list out what the percentage is? Because that's what they're asking us for. They're asking for a resolution for us to move it forward and have it on the ballot.
Correct.
Tim,
Could
go ahead.
it be stated the resolution as amended by the city attorney?
Well, yes, and there is a revised clean version, so it would merely be city council adopting the resolution as set forth on page 8 of item 9A.
Yes. So that the first, now therefore the city resolves to approve the following millage and directs the clerk to submit it for the November 3rd, 20 general election ballot. So it would be that portion above, correct, Tim?
Yes. You still have time if you wanted to consider it and bring it back in 2 weeks, so that everybody's had a chance to consider this. I know there were some other questions raised, the city manager addressed with me earlier, with regard to other communities joining in and making the city's levy contingent upon it passing in the other communities. Again, it comes down to your discretion. I don't recommend revising it too much more with regard to contingencies because you have the discretion, but I know that was something that was being considered.
I'm looking at the language, I'm looking at a clean version, and I don't see what would change between now and July 27th at our next meeting, except time passage.
Right. Dan, you had your hand up for a minute.
I personally feel like if we're going to vote to allow this to go to the ballot, we need to proceed with the idea that if it passes in Williamston, we're going to levy the 0.25 mils. I can't see it. I'm not saying if we proceed with this, I can't see it passing in the city, not passing anywhere else, and then us coming back and going, well, we're not going to give you the money. If
Correct.
we're going to allow it to go forward, I think we need to go forward with the thought that if it passes here, we levy the amount.
Yep, I would agree because, that's in good faith. Jean, if you would like to ask for this action item 8F and read that, the language on the revised clean version, and then we'll look and see if we have support for it and can take a vote.
All right, so I'm making a motion to move this to action item 8F, to vote on the resolution to adopt millage proposal, the revised clean version on which is 9A, page 8 of our council packet, as amended by our city attorney.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Smith. Do I have support?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Rhines. Are there any further questions before I call for a roll? Okay, Barb, will you call the roll for this new action item 8F?
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines,
Yes.
Gilroy,
Yes.
Roland,
Just want to make a quick statement before I vote in that going forward, if the city constituents do pass this, I just want to have it on the record. I completely disagree with what Councilman Rhines is saying, that, you know, it's just not a blanket check that we're going to go to the 0.25. So, you know, with that said, I agree with everything Gene said tonight. Absolutely, this is necessary to help out the community, but I think we have to be diligent with expenses and where the city's money is going, and make sure that that is spent wisely. But with that said, I'm voting yes for sure.
Thank you.
Smith,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger.
You're on mute, Noah.
Yes.
Thank you, council members. I appreciate that. Julie, Susie, I know that you guys are going to take this information. Yes, Tim?
Was that vote just to move it to the action item? Have we?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So now we need, so now we need to actually, right, so now we have to vote on the actual resolution.
I'll make a resolution to vote on the adopted clean version on page 9A, page 8 of our council packet.
Thank you, Jean. Do I have a support for a vote?
Second, Ryan.
Thank you, Councilman Rhines. Barb, will you call the roll?
Gilroy,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bizzard,
Yes.
Bellinger,
Yes.
Weiss,
Yes.
Rhines.
Yes.
Okay, ladies, you have that from us. I hope that when you're talking with the other municipalities that it helps them to come to a decision that will be in favor of the senior center. And I know you guys are going to market this and make sure that, you know, all of these municipalities that are concerned have the information they need to go to the polls in November and hopefully vote favorably for this, because you guys have put an awful lot of work into this. You know, I mean, back from when Susie was, you know, the director, and with John being the director, you guys have done a lot of work, and I really appreciate all of your efforts.
No, I thank you, and I hope you guys realize the weight that the city has with this vote. I really do feel like, and again, no disrespect, I think that townships are waiting to see what you were going to do. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate it. You too. Follow up with us.
Okay.
Let us know what Leroy and Locke say. All right. We have correspondence. Great. Thank you. Moving along on our agenda, we received correspondence from Capital Area District Library, their report. I will move right forward to our department head reports. We did receive a memo from Corey. Is there anything additional you would like to add, Corey?
Not at this time.
Does anybody have any questions for Corey's memo, his report? All right. Chief, we already heard from you this evening regarding your new vehicle. Is there anything else you would like to share?
Nothing else to add. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief. And we also have the financials from Rachel. If anybody has any questions, you can certainly reach out to Rachel regarding the financial and investment quarterly report for June 30th, 2020. I know that we haven't had a lot of meetings during this COVID. Some of our different boards have had cancellations. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share from a committee or a subcommittee report? Okay, moving along.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jean.
Oh my gosh, that's so sensitive. Okay, all right, from Planning Commission. So we had a work session this last week working on the parking side of things within the city. Corey and staff brought some great info to us and stuff. So we're moving that forward, that ball.
All right, thank you, Jean. Moving along, Holly, did we have anybody else join us for audience participation? No? Okay.
Did not.
That's all right. Council member comments. I will go ahead and start with my upper left corner, Mr. Bellinger.
No comments for this evening.
All right, Mr. Weiss.
Nothing, thank you.
All right, Mr. Smith.
I'm kind of sorry, I apologize putting everybody on the spot with that tonight. I know nobody was really prepared to vote on that, but quite frankly, future favors the bold. I think if we sat on our hands with that, people look to us for leadership. We need to make a decision, and that's an extremely clear decision, just simply to put it to the voters. I mean, in my eyes, and I think it would have spoke volumes whether we did it or whether we didn't. So I'm glad we did, and I'm proud of what we did.
Thank you. Mr. Bizzard.
Yeah, so I got some questions for Scott, actually. Just curious when Church Street's looking to get repaved, and then the intersection of Church and Putnam.
Actually, with the repair work that was done on Church Street there, we wanted to let it sit for a period of time so any settlement would happen. We've been touching it up every few days. We just talked about it today. We feel that the chance that it's going to have any more settlement is fairly low at this point. So in the next couple of weeks, I was looking at making a plan for that getting repaid. The project that was supposed to happen that was tied with TCI is still on hold. So I was looking at possibly talking with them about this, the paving repair that we got to do. See if we can tie the two of those things together.
Okay. My concern is I just don't want it to fall under the radar. It's been, what now, 2 years? And, we just did some touch-ups there. I know it's minor little area, but, if they said they were going to warranty it, that's all I'm concerned about, is that it's covered and it's not forgotten about and falling through the loops. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Dan, did I call on you? Okay.
I think we made the right decision with the senior center tonight, but I'm frustrated that they had to come to us, because I actually went to school in the community center after the senior center had been established, when we had infants through 85-year-olds all in that building, funded by community ed and the schools. And the schools decided to stop funding that. Along the same lines, they decided to stop funding RCRA, and more of this keeps winding up in the city's lap. We're now having to deal with the youth sports, which for the entirety of RCRA was a school thing, and then it became our thing. And we always want to see these programs continue, and I'm totally agree with Jeff Rowland. We have to watch our pennies. But the idea that we would put this to the voters, that our voters would pass it, and then we would tell our voters, we know you agreed to give this money to the senior center, but we're not going to do that because everybody else didn't pass it. I don't see that as working in good faith. We unfortunately get stuck with a lot of this stuff, whether it's fair or not. We pay for the entirety of the library's rent, even though all the townships get to come in and use that. It's unfortunately a part of being the city. Do I like it? Do I think it's fair? No, but it's part of what we get to deal with.
Thank you, Mr. Rhines. Mr. Rowland.
Thanks, Sammy. Yeah, that's interesting, Dan. That's good. That's good historical feedback there on where we've been and how we got here. But Yeah, agree with, thanks, Gene. I don't think, you put too many of us on the spot. I think it was, we saw it in February, right? And, here we were, and, let's see what the voters think. But I do think, just to kind of dovetail on your comments there, Dan, where I was coming from was more of, if there's some sort of, we wouldn't just give money to an organization that can't do anything with it. Right. I think, like, if no one else is supporting them and it's a sinking ship anyways, we're not just going to give them money just to give them money to stay afloat. That's really where I was coming from. But obviously, if it works, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. So I just wanted to be careful on the record there that we're not just saying, hey, we're just going to give you money no matter what. But yeah, that's the only place I was really coming from there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the vote goes. So excited for it. So thanks, Gene. Thanks, Dan, for the insight.
All right. My comments are, I'm really proud of the work that group has done, because this has been something that they've really struggled with. I know that they don't have expenses as far as rent and utilities over at the commons. So I hope this helps. Our aged population is important, just as our younger generation, and so letting the residents speak and use their voice to vote will hopefully be in favor of that. But I do agree that we have to put it out to the community. So it'll be interesting to see what the other townships do as well, and if they pass their resolutions. But I think we did good work tonight by making that an action item. And that's all I have this evening. So everybody have a good week. And I am calling this meeting adjourned at 8:31.